Thanks, Obama. There's going to be fear, anxiety, a sense of desperation in some cases.
We all hated the bank bailout. I hated it, you hated it, I hated it. It was about as popular as 9/11. Banks caused this crisis. I loved the bank bailout. So I supported the last administration's efforts to create the financial rescue program. Of course, none of these reforms will even happen. You lose, I win.
We did some things that were wrong. We did a whole lot of things that were right, but we tortured some folks. We did some things that were contrary to our values. I understand why it happened. I think it's important when we look back to recall how afraid people were after the Twin Towers fell.
And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse. Pull it, pull it, pull it, pull it. Cash. We're obligated under the ground lease to pay a rental of $120 million a year. We're obligated under that ground lease to demand that the insurers fulfill their responsibility under the policies. Two separate towers at two separate time frames, bringing each tower down independently of the other at two different time frames. We are now finding ourselves in this furious legal confrontation with the insurers. Cash.
Nobody loves a banker.
Security and liberty may prosper together.
He'd bought a lot of gold. He thought the war would go on much longer. He gets the news of Waterloo 2 days before the government does, because he's a Rothschild. He thinks, what am I going to do with all this gold? The price is bound to fall. I'll buy government bonds, because peace means the value of government stock will go up. And he gets away with it, and he makes 600 million, which is proper money in 1815.
Absolutely.
Cash.
Nobody loves a banker.
Now, the challenge for us as the federal government is that we don't run these police forces. I can't federalize every police force in the country and force them to retrain. But what I can do is to start working with them collaboratively so that they can begin this process of change.
Just as I promised, we are allowing our local police to access surplus military equipment, something the previous administration for some reason refused to do. Explain that one. Explain it to me, please. Never understood that one. Somebody out there can explain. Anybody want to stand up and explain it?
So with the additional steps I ordered last month, we're speeding up training of ISIL forces.
Everyone in the national security team recommended arming ISIS. And
Hillary Clinton created ISIS with Obama. Created with Obama.
Dr. West, you've even called Barack Obama a, quote, Rockefeller Republican in blackface who's unworthy of swearing in on Dr. King's Bible. I mean, in your experience alone, is Obama being an African-American a factor that deters people from criticizing him? Because inherently they're looking at him as a symbol of progress just for the sake of him being African-American.
No, absolutely. I mean, one, there's been a shameful silence in the black community in terms of keeping alive the legacies of Martin King and Malcolm X and Fannie Lou Hamer, which is telling the truth and bearing witness to justice, beginning with black people, but concerned about what goes on in the Middle East. Palestinians just as valuable as Israelis. What's going on in Guantanamo Bay? 166 persons, 86 are now ready to go, but they refuse to be released, and there's no serious public conversation. You all have had the courage to at least report that. What's going on in so many different arenas where the corporate media remains hidden and conceals. How many innocent children have really been killed by U.S. drones with bombs dropped on those precious persons? Let's just tell the truth. Tell the truth everywhere. Russia, United States, Ethiopia, Guatemala, Argentina. Let's engage in serious highbrow journalism.
Yeah, let's tell the truth and let the facts, go where they lay and let people decide what they want to decide based on the facts available. Thousands dead with drones. I mean, Obama's escalated drone warfare exponentially. It's really astounding when you look at the visualization of this data, Dr. West. And I wanted to actually expand the conversation to racial inequality. It's so staggering when you look at the prison industry alone in this country. I mean, it's alleged, and I don't know if this is actually true. I've heard both facts that there are more African Americans in prison today than were enslaved proportionally in 1850. In fact, according to a Pew Research study, an African American male without a high school diploma is more likely to end up behind bars than get a job. I mean, why is it that the prison industry seems to be acting like the modern day slave trade?
Well, we turn to Michelle Alexander's great book, The New Jim Crow. She's one of the great prophetic voices of our time and talks quite explicitly about the war on drugs being a war on poor people, especially black and brown poor people, just like here in New York City. Stop and frisk, 5,000 stop and frisk cases since 2002 under Mayor Bloomberg. This is a mayor that the president says is a terrific mayor, but 5 million stop and frisk, 87% black and brown, only 2% tied to criminal activity. That's the kind of autocratic, authoritarian sensibility we see expanding in the United States, and we have to be honest about it. We have to fight against it. We have to protect rights and liberties of everyone.
Dr. West, coming